Lyra stood at the center of the cold stone hall, her hands shaking so badly she had to hide them inside her sleeves. The air smelled of old dust and fear. Around her, members of her clan whispered, their glowing eyes filled with pity. She knew what they were thinking. She knew what they believed. Humans are dangerous. Humans do not feel kindness. This girl will not survive her wedding night. Lyra tried to breathe, but every breath felt tight, as if the room was closing in on her. Today she would be given to a human man as part of a peace deal between their species. She had no choice, no voice, no control. Only fear. At the end of the hall, the human stood tall and silent. Evan. He looked nothing like the story she had heard. He did not have burning eyes or sharp metal claws. Instead, he wore simple frontier clothes, brown jacket, worn boots, calloused hands. His face was unreadable, calm, but there was a hardness in his eyes that made her heart race faster. When their eyes met, Lyra looked away instantly. She feared he would take that as disrespect. Humans in the stories always punish disrespect. A guard gave her a slight push from behind. "Walk," he whispered. Lyra felt like she was walking toward her doom. Her steps were slow, her legs weak. She could hear her own heartbeat louder than the murmurs of the crowd. Evan did not move. He only stood there, watching her with an expression she could not understand. It was not anger, not impatience, not excitement. It was something else. Something gentle. But Lyra could not trust that thought. When she finally reached him, she kept her head down, waiting for the moment he would grab her arm or pull her forward, like she had seen in old stories. But he didn't. Single quotes T. Evan simply said, in a calm and steady voice, "You are safe with me." The words hit her like a shock. Safe? No human had ever said that to her people before. It had to be a lie. A trick. Humans always had hidden plans. Lyra dared to lift her eyes a little. She saw something strange. Evan was keeping a small distance from her, as if he was careful not to touch her without permission. Why? It confused her more than fear did. The marriage ceremony was short, simple. The human representative and the alien elder signed a metallic slab, and with that, Lyra's fate was sealed. She expected Evan to drag her away immediately, but instead he waited quietly, letting her finish saying goodbye to her clan. Her mother looked at her with wet eyes. "My daughter, be strong." Lyra nodded, though every part of her trembled. Evan led her to his transport, but again, he kept space between them. He did not try to hold her arm. He did not force her to walk fast. He just walked beside her in silence. When they entered the small ship, Lyra stayed near the wall, unsure if she was allowed to sit. Evan noticed her hesitation and pointed gently to one of the seats. "You can sit wherever you want," he said softly, wherever she wanted. No alien bride in the old stories ever had a choice. This man was acting in ways she did not expect. In ways she did not understand. The ship rose into the sky, leaving her old life behind. Lyra wrapped her arms around herself, staring at the stars. Her heart felt heavy, scared, and confused. Evan glanced at her but said nothing more. He seemed to respect her silence. For the first time, Lyra wondered, what kind of human was he? And why was he being gentle with someone like her? She did not trust him, not yet. But a small seed of doubt grew inside her. Fear. Maybe. Just maybe. Humans were not what she had always believed. The transport ship landed on a quiet, human frontier planet, so quiet that Lyra felt her fear grow instead of fade. There were no crowds, no loud machines, no guards waiting outside. The evening sky glowed soft orange, and cold wind brushed against her skin as she stepped out. Evan walked a few steps ahead, giving her space again. It felt strange. In her imagination, humans always stayed close so their brides could not escape. But Evan acted like he was afraid to scare her. "This way," he said calmly. Lyra followed. But every sound made her jump, the crunch of gravel under their boots, the wind tapping against metal fences, the distant howl of some unseen creature. She wondered if Evan kept those creatures as punishment tools. Her mind replayed every terrible story she had ever heard. When they reached his home, Lyra stopped. It was a small wooden house at the edge of a forest. No shiny human technology. No big metal doors. It looked peaceful. Too peaceful. That made her even more nervous. Evan paused at the door, noticing her hesitation. "You can go inside first if you want," he offered. Lyra blinked. Why would a human groom let his alien bride enter before him? In her culture, this was considered respect. But humans were not known for such things. Or so she had believed. She stepped inside slowly. The house was warm and quiet. A soft yellow lamp glowed in the corner, and a small heater hummed near the wall. There were pictures on shelves, Evan with other humans, smiling in old uniforms. Weapons were locked behind clear cases, not lying around like instruments of control. Lyra kept her distance from everything. "This is your room," Evan said, pointing to a small door on the left. "My room?" Lyra repeated softly, uncertain if she heard correctly. "Yes, you should have your own space, at least until you feel comfortable." Comfortable? That word was never part of the marriage story she grew up with. Lyra opened the door. Inside was a bed covered with soft blankets, a small desk, and a heater already turned on to match her species' warm temperature needs. "You prepared this?" she asked quietly. Evan nodded. "I tried to learn about your people. I know your kind likes warm rooms." He walked away before she could respond, giving her privacy. Lyra sat on the bed. The blanket was thicker than anything she had ever touched. Was this kindness real? Or was it part of some bigger plan? She didn't know. A few minutes later, she heard sounds from the kitchen. Cautiously, she walked out and saw Evan cooking. Steam rose from a pot, and he was checking something on a screen, probably a recipe. He looked up. "You haven't eaten since morning." "I made something mild. Humans eat spicy food, but I know your kind doesn't." Again thoughtful. "Why?" "You don't have to pretend," Lyra whispered without thinking. Evan looked confused. "Pretend what?" "That you are kind." Her voice trembled. "Humans don't do that." He put the spoon down slowly. "I'm not pretending, Lyra. I don't want you to fear me." Lyra felt her throat tighten. She didn't know what to say. A sudden thumping sound outside the house made her jump. She froze, expecting danger. Evan immediately stepped between her and the noise, scanning the door with alert eyes. "It's just the wind," he assured her softly. "You're safe." Safe. Again that word. Her fear didn't vanish. But something inside her shifted, a tiny crack in the wall she had built around her heart. Later, when she returned to her room, she noticed something surprising. Evan had placed a small lamp near her bed. Dim and warm, like the glowing stones from her home. World. She touched it carefully. This human groom was nothing like the monsters in her stories. And that made him even more mysterious. Lyra woke up on her second morning in Evan's home feeling weak. Her skin felt cold, her breath came out in shaky clouds, and her fingers trembled uncontrollably. Her species disliked cold climates, and this planet was far colder than she expected. But she did not want to cause trouble. She did not want to appear difficult. Humans, in her older stories, punished difficult brides. So she sat quietly on the edge of her bed, trying to rub warmth into her arms. Her vision blurred for a moment. She pressed her palms into her eyes, willing herself to stay strong. A soft knock came on the door. "Lyra?" "Breakfast is ready," Evan's voice said gently. She tried to answer, but her voice cracked. I'm fine." It was a lie, and Evan heard it instantly. The door opened halfway. He didn't step inside. He stayed by the frame, giving her space. But the moment he saw her pale skin and shivering body, his calm expression vanished. "You're freezing," he said sharply, not in anger, but in alarm. Lyra flinched anyway, instinctively pulling back. Old fear rose in her chest. Evan raised both hands slowly. "I'm not going to hurt you. But you're sick. Please let me help." Her breath shook. It's nothing. I will adjust to the climate." "That's not how biology works," he replied softly. "Your body is shutting down." Before she could argue, her legs buckled slightly. Evan stepped forward, not grabbing her, but offering his arm. She stared at it, confused. "Hold on to me," he said. "If you want." The phrase "if you want" echoed strangely in her mind. A choice, always a choice. No human in her stories had ever spoken like that. Slowly, she placed her hand on his arm. Evan immediately guided her to the living room and wrapped a thick thermal blanket around her shoulders. The sudden warmth felt heavenly. Then he turned on a heating panel near her chair, adjusting it to her species' natural temperature range. Lyra blinked in surprise. How do you know these things?" He gave a small, almost shy smile. "I read about your species on the way here. You studied." "For me?" "Yes," Evan said simply, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. Her heart thumped strangely. He opened a med kit and pulled out a warming patch. "This will help. It doesn't hurt, but it might feel warm quickly. May I?" He gestured toward her neck. Lyra hesitated. Physical touch was frightening, but she was too weak to refuse, and Evan waited patiently. Without pressure, she nodded. Evan placed the patch gently on her skin. No pain, no rough handling. Just warm, careful hands. His touch was steady, respectful. Nothing like the harsh images in her mind. "You'll feel better soon," he promised. Lyra's eyes closed for a second. "Why are you doing this?" He froze. Then in a low voice he said, "Because I couldn't save someone before." Her eyes opened. "Someone? Close to you?" He swallowed hard but nodded. "My wife, she died on a mission. I promised myself, if I ever had someone under my care again, I would protect them with everything I have." Lyra felt a strange ache in her chest. She had expected cruelty, not heartbreak. "And now," Evan continued quietly, "you are here. And I don't want history to repeat." He sat beside the heater, keeping his distance but watching her carefully, making sure she was warming up. His eyes stayed alert the entire time, like a guardian on duty. Hours later, when Lyra finally felt her body relax, she whispered, "Thank you, Evan." He smiled a soft, tired smile. "You don't have to thank me. You deserve safety." For the first time, Lyra believed him. The human Groom she feared so deeply was slowly becoming the safest part of her new life. Lyra felt much better the next day, but something inside her had changed. She no longer looked at Evan the way she did before. The fear wasn't gone, but it no longer controlled every breath she took. Now there was something else. Curiosity. Evan moved quietly around the house, always giving her space, never pressuring her to speak or act a certain way. He cooked, repaired things around the house, and sat near the window during evenings, staring outside as if waiting for something that would never return. Lyra began noticing the small things. He always checked if the room temperature suited her. He never entered her room without knocking. He spoke softly, even when he was tired. He treated her gently, and she couldn't stop wondering why. One afternoon, while Evan was outside fixing the perimeter lights, Lyra walked around the house, examining the shelves and walls. She wasn't snooping, she just wanted to understand the man she now lived with. Then she saw the picture, a small framed photo on the shelf that she hadn't noticed before. A human woman with strong eyes standing beside Evan in military armor. Both of them smiling like the future was bright. Lyra froze. Her heart pounded. This woman. Was she Evan's lost wife? Before she could step back, she heard the door open behind her. Evan walked in, wiping sweat from his forehead. His eyes fell on the picture in her hands, and he stopped. Lyra's voice trembled. She was important to you. Evan nodded slowly. Yes, her name was Marin. She was brave, smarter than me, and always the first to volunteer for dangerous missions. There was no anger in his voice, only a deep, quiet sadness. Lyra placed the picture carefully back on the shelf. I'm sorry. You don't have to be, he said gently. It's part of my past. Losing her changed me, but it didn't break me. It taught me how fragile life is. Is that why you are careful? With me? She asked softly. Evan looked at her for a long moment. Yes. I don't want to lose someone again, not because of negligence, not because of fear, and not because I failed to protect them. Lyra felt warmth in her chest. She had never expected such honesty. Humans in her stories never cared about anyone. But the man standing in front of her cared too much. Before she could respond, a loud knock echoed through the house. Lyra jumped back in fear. Evan instantly stepped in front of her, shielding her with his body. Stay behind me, he said firmly. Her heart raced. But the protective tone in his voice sent a strange comfort through her. Evan opened the door. A group of alien traders stood outside, big, rough men with scales shining under the sun. Their eyes immediately fell on Lyra. One of them sneered. So this is the alien bride humans like now? She looks weak. Lyra's throat tightened. She stepped back instinctively. Evan's voice became sharp and cold. You don't talk about her like that. The traders laughed. She belongs to your kind now. Does it matter what we say? Evan stepped forward, his posture strong. She's my wife, and she is under my protection. Choose your next words carefully. The air turned tense. The traders exchanged looks, muttered something under their breath, and walked away, clearly deciding that provoking a human soldier was not worth it. Evan shut the door and turned to Lyra. You're safe, he said again, this time. Lyra didn't doubt him. Her people had always told her humans were heartless. But today, she saw something different, a man who was willing to stand in front of danger for her. A man who respected her, even when others didn't. That night, Lyra sat by the small lamp in her room, thinking about everything she had seen. The human groom she feared might actually be the first person to ever protect her without expecting anything in return. And that realization changed something deep inside her. The sky was already dark when Lyra heard the first strange sound. A sharp clicking noise carried by the cold wind, followed by a low rumble from the forest. She sat up in her bed, her ears twitching. Something felt wrong. Terribly wrong. She peeked out of her room. Evan was sitting at the small table, cleaning a tool with calm hands. But when he heard the noise too, his entire body tensed. His eyes narrowed. That's not an animal, he whispered. Lyra froze. Fear rushed through her chest like ice water. Evan stood up slowly, moving with the quiet confidence of a trained soldier. Lyra, stay close to me. Don't move alone. Before she could reply, the house lights flickered once, twice, and then went dark. The heater hummed weakly and shut off. The room filled with shadows. Then came the second sound, a metallic crash outside. Then another. Then voices. Not friendly voices. Raiders. Lyra single quotes as legs trembled. She stumbled back, but Evan caught her wrist gently, guiding her behind him. Don't panic, he whispered. I'm here. But she could see the tension in his jaw. This wasn't a simple danger. This was something real. The door shook violently. Someone outside was trying to force it open. Evan grabbed a small weapon from the wall locker. It wasn't a large gun, just a compact blaster used for frontier defense. He didn't point it at her. He didn't shout. He didn't show any fear. He only positioned himself between her and the door. The banging grew louder. "Why are they here?" Lyra whispered, voice trembling. "Raiders take anyone who seems weak," Evan said softly. "Especially alien settlers. They think you're alone out here." Lyra swallowed hard. "But I'm not alone." Evan glanced back at her, just a small look, but in that moment, she saw determination sharper than any weapon. The door burst open. 3 raiders rushed in, their masks glowing in the dark. They saw Lyra first and pointed at her with greedy eyes. "That one," the leader growled. "Take her." Lyra let out a silent gasp and stepped back, hitting the wall. Her vision blurred with panic. But Evan moved first. He fired a warning shot that hit the floor near the raiders, forcing them to jump back. Then he stepped forward, blocking their way completely. "You're not taking her," Evan said, voice low and dangerous. The raiders laughed. "Move aside, human. She's not even your species." Evan's grip tightened on the weapon. "She's my wife, and you'll have to get through me first." The room went silent for a heartbeat. Then chaos exploded. The leader lunged at Evan. Evan dodged, hit him with the handle of the blaster, and shoved him back. The second raider swung a metal rod, grazing Evan's arm and tearing his sleeve. Lyra watched in horror as blood began to drip down his elbow. But Evan didn't stop. He fought with fierce precision, protecting every inch between the raiders and Lyra. She felt useless, frozen, unable to help as he struggled against enemies twice his size. "Evan!" she cried. He didn't look back, but his voice came steady. "Stay behind me." A final strike sent one raider crashing into the table. The other 2, seeing the human refusing to fall, cursed and fled through the broken door, disappearing into the night. Silence rushed in. Evan lowered the weapon, breathing hard. He turned toward Lyra, wiping blood from his arm. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Lyra shook her head, tears filling her eyes. You protected me." Evan gave a weak smile. "Of course. I told you you're safe with me." She stepped forward without thinking and grabbed his injured hand. It was warm, trembling slightly. Her fear melted into something new: trust, deep and real. "Let me treat your wound," she whispered. And for the first time, it was Lyra who reached out to him. The night had tried to steal her away, but it only showed her how far Evan would go to keep her safe. Evan tried to brush off the blood on his arm as if it were nothing, but Lyra could see the pain behind his eyes. The wound was deeper than he wanted to admit. She guided him gently to sit near the heater, her hands trembling not from fear this time, but from worry. "Stay still," she whispered. "I'm fine," Evan tried to say. But the moment Lyra pressed a clean cloth on the cut, he winced. "You are not fine," she replied, surprising even herself with the sharpness in her voice. "You fight raiders as if your body is made of stone." "It is not." Evan let out a soft laugh. "I guess not." Lyra opened her small travel pouch and pulled out a jar of luminescent salve. Her species used it for rapid healing. Carefully, she dipped her fingers into the glowing gel and touched his wound. Evan tensed but didn't pull away. "It may sting a little," she warned. "It's okay," he said. "Do what you need." The salve spread over the cut, sealing it slowly. Evan watched her hands move with gentle precision. There was something comforting in the way she touched him, careful but firm, as if she had decided he mattered. "You didn't have to fight them like that," Lyra whispered. Still focused on the wound, Evan's voice was soft. "Of course I did. Why?" "They were here for me. And I'm here for you," he answered simply. Lyra's heart skipped. She looked up at him, searching for any sign of exaggeration or trickery. But Evan's expression was honest, tired, and incredibly human. After she finished treating him, Evan leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment. "You saved my life," she said. He shook his head. I protected you. That's different. Not for me, she said quietly. A warm silence settled between them. For the first time since she arrived, Lyra did not feel like a stranger in the house. She felt like someone important, someone valued. Later, when the house was repaired and the door resecured, a strange beep echoed from outside. Evan stepped out, saw a small shuttle landing in front of the house, and stiffened. It's from your clan, he murmured. Lyra's heart dropped. The shuttle door opened, and a familiar face stepped out, an elder from her settlement. Lyra, he called. We received word of the attack. We came to take you home. Home. The word sounded distant now. The elder frowned at the damaged door. This human cannot protect you. Living with him is dangerous. You can return with us. You will be safe. Lyra looked at Evan. He was standing still, his face unreadable. But she saw something in his eyes, something he was trying to hide: pain, fear, and acceptance. He stepped back, giving her full space. It's your choice, he said softly. If you want to go, I won't stop you. Lyra felt her throat tighten. The elder extended his hand toward her. You belong with your people, he insisted. Lyra looked at the shuttle, then at Evan, then at her own trembling hands. Memories rushed through her mind. Evan sleeping sitting up so she could have the bed. Evan studying her species' needs, just to keep her comfortable. Evan fighting raiders without hesitation. Evan whispering, "You're safe with me." Her people had not protected her from fear. Evan had. Slowly, she stepped forward. But instead of walking to the elder, she walked toward Evan. The elder's eyes widened. Lyra, what are you doing? Lyra stood beside Evan. Her voice was quiet but steady. I choose to stay. Evan inhaled sharply, as if the words shocked him. Lyra slipped her hand into his, her first real gesture of trust. She belongs where she feels safe, she added, staring at the elder. And I feel safe here. The elder hesitated, then finally nodded and returned to the shuttle. As the craft lifted back into the sky, Lyra turned to Evan. His eyes were wide, almost disbelieving. You stayed, he whispered. I did, she said, squeezing his hand gently. Because you stayed for me first. And in that moment, both of them understood. This was no longer a forced union, it was a chosen bond. The night after, Lyra chose to stay felt different. The house was still quiet, the forest still cold. But something warm had settled between her and Evan. It wasn't just safety anymore, it was connection. Fragile but real, like a small flame glowing in a dark room. Evan moved around carefully, as if he wasn't sure what he was allowed to do now. He fixed the door again, checked the perimeter lights twice, and even put fresh blankets in her room. Lyra watched him with a gentle smile, her fear replaced by a calm she had never known before. At dinner, Evan hesitated before sitting. Is it okay if I sit here? Lyra gave a soft laugh. You sit there every day. Yes, but today feels different. It does, she agreed, her voice warm. They ate together in quiet comfort. No tension, no fear. For the first time, the silence felt peaceful instead of heavy. Later, Lyra stepped out onto the porch, staring at the stars. They were brighter here, spread like silver dust across the night sky. Evan joined her, but kept a respectful distance. You miss your home world? He asked gently. Lyra thought for a moment. I used to, but things are different now. Evan looked down. I didn't want to hold you here. I'm glad you chose freely. She turned to him. You gave me what my people never did. Safety? He asked. Choice, she corrected softly. You never forced me. You never pushed me. You gave me space when I needed it. That means more than you know. Evan swallowed, his expression softening. I wanted you to feel respected. After what happened with Marin, I learned I should never take someone's presence for granted. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes full of gentle curiosity. Tell me about her. Evan stared at the stars. She was brave, strong. She believed humans and aliens could build a future together. When she died, I felt like that future died too. Lyra listened quietly. But then you came, Evan said, voice low. And suddenly I was afraid again, not of losing you, but of failing you. I didn't want you to think humans were monsters. You made sure I never saw a monster. Lyra replied softly. They stood together in the cold wind, but Lyra didn't feel cold anymore. She moved closer, her shoulder brushing his arm. Evan stiffened at first, surprised, then relaxed. A small smile touched her lips. You're warm. Evan chuckled. Humans usually are. Inside the house, the heater hummed. The lights glowed softly. Everything felt like home not because of the house, but because of the man standing beside her. A sudden chirping alarm from the perimeter pulled Evan's attention. Probably just animals, he said. But I should check. I'll come too, Lyra said. Evan blinked in surprise. Are you sure? She nodded. I'm not afraid anymore. They walked together to the edge of the forest. A harmless creature scurried away, triggering the sensor. Evan laughed at himself for reacting too quickly. Lyra found his nervous laugh adorable. On the way back, she slipped her hand into his. Not out of fear, out of choice. Evan stopped, looking down at their joined hands with disbelief. Lyra, you don't have to. I want to, she said simply. His expression softened into a warmth she had never seen before. He squeezed her hand gently, as if afraid to break something precious. When they returned to the porch, Lyra looked up at him. May I call you my husband now? Evan's breath caught. Only if you want to. I do, she whispered. And for the first time since she left her world, she felt complete. The alien bride who once trembled with fear had found strength in the arms of a human she once believed was dangerous. Their story spread quietly across the frontier. The tale of a terrified bride and the human who changed her world with kindness. And in the small wooden house by the forest, two lives began to build a future neither had expected. But both chose with open hearts.